Viktor Arvidsson is back as the LA Kings go for back-to-back wins on back-to-back nights. That and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. We'd love for you to leave us a positive comment on Apple Podcasts if you like the show. And we're on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, 20 plus years at the Fox Sports Radio Network. I'm also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the last 17 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code Locked On. Use the code Locked On to get $20 off of your purchase. The Kings are right back in action tonight as they host the Minnesota Wild, coming off a win the previous night against the Chicago Blackhawks. We'll talk more about that coming up. But the answer to the question we've been asking lately, will Viktor Arvidsson be back tonight? And, well, I kind of gave it away, but he has been activated off of long-term injured reserve. The Kings wouldn't do that unless they were going to play him. So all indications are Viktor Arvidsson is going to play tonight after missing 14 games with an injury. And that was after playing only 4 games after returning from back surgery. So Viktor Arvidsson, we won't know 100% until we actually see him on the ice in the game. But all indications are, yes, Viktor Arvidsson has been activated from LTIR, and it looks like he will make his return to the lineup tonight against a pretty good and desperate Minnesota Wild team. So that is the big news going into tonight's game. Now, usually this is where we would have the projected lineup, but it's a tough call because if Viktor Arvidsson is in fact in the lineup, which we expect, where exactly is he going to line up? Where is he going to slot in? Are the Kings going to stick with that 11-7 lineup with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen, which has been effective over the past few weeks, or will they return to the more traditional 12-6 lineup, 12 forwards and 6 defensemen? And again, where exactly he's going to slot in, we're not totally sure. Also to be factored in, unfortunately, Alex Tuch suffered an injury in the win over Chicago, so he's not going to play tonight. Don't know the severity of the injury. And with Alex, unfortunately, with his injury history, you always kind of hold your breath on that. So Turcotte will be out of the lineup. That will likely mean that Blake Lizotte will move from the wing where he was in the game against Chicago back to the fourth line center position where he's very comfortable. So not a big deal there. And with Turcotte out as well, it looks like Arthur Kaliyev will be back in the lineup, we think. And that would mean that maybe Jacob Moverar would be out of the lineup. So remains to be seen exactly how that's going to be figured out, where exactly Viktor Arvidsson is going to play. But again, looks like Viktor Arvidsson is going to be back tonight. And the big question is, how much ice time is he going to get? How is he going to look? Will he be back on the power play? A lot of things to watch tonight. But I am very excited to have Viktor Arvidsson back. Obviously, he's a potentially huge addition to the lineup. Kings are 4-0 with him in the starting lineup this season, for what that's worth. But excited to see what he can do, excited for the possibilities, but also holding your breath every time he makes contact or if he goes down on the ice. But overall, positive, excited to see Viktor Arvidsson in the lineup tonight. As for the game tonight against the Minnesota Wild, let's give you kind of the tail of the tape for the matchup. Kings check in now after their win over Chicago with a 35-22-11 record. That's 3rd place in the Pacific, 7th place in the Western Conference, and 12th in the NHL with 81 points. Kings are 15-11-7 at home this season, coming off that 5-2 win over the Blackhawks, which we'll get more into in a minute. For Minnesota, they are 34-27-8. They're 5th place in the Central Division, 9th in the Western Conference, 17th in the NHL with 76 points. The Wild are 16-15-4 on the road this season. They are coming off a 4-0 shutout over the Ducks in Anaheim Tuesday night. Kings are 19th in the NHL in goals scored per game, 3.06. The Wild are 18th in the NHL in goals scored per game at 3.09. LA third in the NHL in goals allowed per game, 2.57. Minnesota 19th in the league, allowing 3.13 goals per game. The Kings are 14th in the league on the power play, 22.1%. The Wild are 15th in the league on the power play, 21.7%. LA remains the number one team in the NHL on the penalty kill, 86.2%. Minnesota's 28th on the PK, 74.7%. Individually, Kings are led in points by Kevin Fiala. He's got 60 points on the season, 22 goals and 38 assists. Anze Kopitar and Adrian Kempe each have 58 points. Trevor Moore leads the team in goals. He's got 25. Fiala and Kopitar each have 22. Adrian Kempe has 21. And Quentin Byfield is one away from hitting the 20-goal mark and the 50-point mark on the season. So it'd be nice to see Q get on the scoreboard tonight with a goal and, of course, a point. As for the Minnesota Wild, noted Kings killer Kirill Kaprizov leads the team in points and goals. He's got 77 points, 36 goals, and in the past, he has been a guy who's been very effective against the Kings, so LA paying particular attention to him. Also, to keep an eye on, Joel Eriksson Ek for Minnesota. He's got 60 points. Matt Zuccarello and Matt Boldy each have 55 points. Eriksson Ek and Boldy are the only other players other than Kaprizov that has 20 or more goals. Eriksson Ek has 29. Boldy has 24. As for the two netminders, the Kings went with Cam Talbot in the game against Chicago. So David Rittich gets the start tonight. He checks in with a record of 10, 5, and 3, 2.29 goals against average and a .916 save percentage with 2 shutouts. His last game was Saturday against the Stars, where he allowed 4 goals on 29 shots, taking the loss. Rittich has not faced Minnesota this season. For the Wild, they're reportedly going to go with veteran Marc-Andre Fleury, who has shared the net this season with Philip Gustafsson. Gustafsson started the night before in Anaheim, so it's Fleury tonight. The future Hall of Famer has a record of 16, 11, and 4, 2.67 goals against average, and a .906 save percentage with 2 shutouts this season. His last start was against the Blues this past Saturday. He lost that one in a shootout, allowed 2 goals on 37 shots in regulation, and then lost it in the shootout. Fleury is 0 for 1 head-to-head against the Kings this season. He allowed 5 goals on 25 shots against LA way back on October the 19th. That was a Kings 7-2 victory. This is the second of 3 matchups between the Kings and the Wild. Obviously, just told you LA won the first one handily. The two teams will play one more time in Los Angeles on April the 15th. That is the second to last game of the regular season. So the Kings take a little bit of a step up in competition from the previous night. This Wild team is trying to claw their way into that final wildcard spot in the West. Minnesota 3 points back of Vegas for that last wildcard spot. So points are precious right now for Minnesota. The Wild come in playing well in their last 8 games with a record of 6-0-2. For the Kings, this will be their second to last of 12 back-to-back games on the season. In those games so far, the Kings are 2-6-2 in the second of back-to-back games on back-to-back nights. Now, this is the only time all season the Kings will have played back-to-back games on back-to-back nights, with both games being at home. So hopefully that'll make a difference for the Kings, because they haven't been very good in the second of the back-to-backs. But again, all those have involved either, not either, they've traveled in one way or another for that second game, or they've been on the road for both games. So the only time this season the Kings play back-to-back with both games at home. So hopefully that'll be the difference for the Kings in getting a sweep in consecutive games. As I mentioned, the Kings were winners in the first of the back-to-back games last night. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Drive, passion, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your parts guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it is easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or day alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. Hey, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and you can find it on Amazon Fire TV as well. Locked On Sports Today is here for you, covering your sports needs 24/7 with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now on Amazon Fire TV, and keep an eye out for their big Major League Baseball season preview. I saw the Dodgers won last night in their game over in South Korea, playing again tonight over there in the first two games in the Major League Baseball season. So Dodgers getting a jump start on things. As for the LA Kings, they played game one of their 3-game homestand last night as they hosted the Chicago Blackhawks. As for the lineup in this one, Kings were in that 11-7 setup, 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. Arthur Kaliyev was the lone player out of the lineup. Jacob Moverard back in as the extra defenseman. Blake Lizotte put on the wing on the third line with Pierre Dubois and Alex Laferriere, while Alex Turcotte centered that fourth line with Trevor Lewis and a rotating cast of forwards. And it was Cam Talbot in net for the Kings. If you missed the game, give you a quick recap. After no shots on goal for the first 10 minutes plus of the game, the Kings would still get the lead thanks to Alex Laferriere scoring his 11th goal of the season. Blake Lizotte and Pierre Dubois getting the assists. Chicago would answer with a 5-on-3 power play after back-to-back penalties, one on Matt Roy, one on Adrian Kempe, and they tied the game at 1-1, and that would where we would sit after one period. Kings turned it on in the second period with 3 unanswered goals. Defenseman Vladislav Gavrikov would get his 5th of the season to give LA the 2-1 lead, a shot from the point that found its way through some traffic. Anze Kopitar and Adrian Kempe, the assists on that one. Kopitar would then make it 3-1 with his 21st goal of the season. Adrian Kempe with the helper there. And then the captain would strike again with goal number 22 on the power play. Just go to the net and have the puck bounce off you and go in. Nothing wrong with a dirty goal. Kempe and Kevin Fiala with the assist, and the Kings led 4-1 going into the third period. LA would add to the lead. Philip Deneau scoring after a couple of nice passes. Pierre Dubois and then Trevor Moore setting up Deneau for the tap-in goal at the back door. Deneau's 16th of the year. Chicago made it 5-2 with a goal, but then Trevor Lewis closed out the scoring with his 8th of the season. Pierre Dubois and Vladislav Gavrikov with the assists, and the Kings skate off with a pretty convincing 6-2 victory. As for the recap in this one, again, Kings win it 6-2. Shots on goal were dead even, 24 apiece. As far as the power plays, the Kings were 1 for 1 with the man advantage. Chicago was 1 for 4. If you're looking at that graphic, that should be flipped over. The Kings only had 1 power play opportunity. Chicago had 4. Face-offs won, favored LA 32-22. Block shots favored the Kings 21-9. Hits favored Chicago 20-15. As for our 3 stars of the game, when you have a convincing win like this, you've got a few different candidates, but for my 3 stars of the game, I'm going to go with Vladislav Gavrikov with my number 3 star with a goal and an assist. Also picked up his 100th career point in the process. I saw that he had a funny quote with Kings insider Zach Dooley after the game where he was asked about getting his 100th point. He said, well, it's not like 1,000, but for me, that's big. And then he said, but the most important thing is the 2 points for the win. So you got to love that. My number 2 star is Adrian Kempe with 3 assists in the game. How about this? His first career 3 assist game. So Kempe continues to evolve as a player. We know he can score. We know he's got great finishing touch, but he's becoming a better playmaker as well. And we certainly saw a little bit of that last night. But my number 1 star goes to the captain, Anze Kopitar, with 2 goals and an assist. 75th career 3-point game for Kopi, and he now sits 1 point away from 1,200 for his career. He's at 1,199 career points. And we talk about Viktor Arvidsson being a key to the Kings and coming back, and that's absolutely true. But bottom line, the Kings play well when their captain plays well. He is the straw that stirs the drink, as they once said about somebody. When Anze Kopitar has a big game, the Kings usually win. Again, Viktor Arvidsson could be the difference maker, but as far as the guy who really, when he's going, the Kings are going, and that is the captain, Anze Kopitar. And to that point, Jim Hiller was asked about that after the game. We were supposed to have a quote here from Jim Hiller, but I don't think we have that available, unfortunately. We'll see, though, if I can read the quote. Won't have a graphic for you, unfortunately, if you're watching on the YouTube channel. But Jim Hiller had to say about Kempe and Kopitar having big games, quote, "Nice to see the big guys, Kopi in particular, with the 2 goals. One really nice goal off the forecheck. That's part of our game plan, was the forecheck. We didn't do it a lot. We didn't do a lot of it, but that one was to a T, so we really appreciated that. The power play goal, throw it in there. We got people that are in there and around the net, and we get a little bounce off that one," end quote. So head coach Jim Hiller talking about the night for Anze Kopitar. Something we've been doing lately, kind of one word to describe the Kings' effort or performance in a game. And I have to say, to me, that one word is expected. Now, I'm not looking down my nose at any win, but the Kings are a good team, maybe a very good team. And if they're going to have any success in the playoffs, they have to win games like these and win them convincingly. They're playing a bad team. They're a good team. You're on home ice. Go out there and do what you're supposed to do. They did, and that was expected, at least in my mind. And they should expect to win those types of games as well, as they do have some games against some lesser opponents going forward. No letdown. Take care of business. They did that against Chicago. As far as some positive takeaways, some pluses, I think sticking with it initially. Sometimes when you don't start the way you want to start, frustration can build in. You're like, what are we doing? We're better than this team. What do we, why is it not working? But, veteran teams that believe themselves, you stay the course. You don't get too high or too low based on anything that happens over the first 10 minutes of a game. The Kings knew they were the better team. They stuck with it. And in the end, the result was exactly what the result should have been. A positive was getting a power play goal, and frankly, getting a greasy goal at that. What is a greasy goal if you don't know? It's just a hardworking, not pretty skilled, but get the goal, go to the net. Kempe and Kopitar, if you didn't see it, were both in front of the net. The puck goes on net. They're there for a rebound or a deflection. It ends up going off of Kopitar's leg and into the net. Again, it's not pretty, but sometimes you need, especially when you're struggling on the power play, get those kind of dirty goals. Throw the puck on net, crash the net. It's the most basic hockey. Get traffic in front of the goalie, and a lot of times it's very effective. And in the playoffs, goals are harder to come by. You've got to work for those goals. So again, the power play hasn't been great of late. It needs to be better, but going to the net, having bodies in front, getting those greasy, dirty goals, that's a positive for the LA Kings. As far as negatives, takeaways, minuses, obviously, you want to start better than you did. No shots on goal for the first 10 minutes. Give some credit to Chicago. I thought they came out strong, but the Kings would like to obviously start better. Certainly less penalties. We've seen this lately. The Kings taking too many minor penalties and careless penalties. They took 3 minors in the first period. One of them led directly to the Chicago's first goal. Adrian Kempe flips the puck out of play for a delay of game. That's careless. You can't do that. And that led to a 2-man advantage for Chicago, and they would score almost immediately. So the Kings not helping themselves out by taking those penalties, be more disciplined, and frankly, drawing more penalties. The Kings only had 1 power play opportunity. Now, it was great that they did convert on that 1 power play, but, moving your feet, getting into the corners, battling for pucks, winning those puck battles, that will help you end up, drawing those hooks, drawing those trips, those kinds of things. So the Kings need to do a better job. We know the power play needs to be better, but they need to get opportunities on the power play to be better on the power play as well. But good to see the Kings take care of business and get that convincing win over the Chicago Blackhawks. So where are the Kings now in the Pacific Division and the Western Conference playoff picture? There was some things happening last night. We'll update you on that next here on Locked on LA Kings, your team every day. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. I don't, because I use Gametime, the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. I used Gametime this past year to buy tickets to NFL games. I bought tickets to NHL games as well, went on vacation in New York, got my tickets through Gametime, had a great time and had some great seats. The app is super easy to navigate and use. They've got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and the best price guaranteed. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. And I love how you can view the seat before you buy it. You know exactly the vantage point you're going to get when you arrive at the game. Gametime also takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. All-in prices show the total up front. You know there are no hidden fees, and you're going to get a great deal. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps on the app. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON NHL, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. The LA Kings face the Minnesota Wild 7 p.m. Pacific tonight. Catch every moment of the hometown broadcast of your LA Kings with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search LA Kings. And I believe tonight is a TNT only broadcast as far as the TV coverage, so no local Bally Sports TV coverage. So if you want to hear the hometown broadcasters, Nick Nixon, Daryl Evans, you'll have to tune into SiriusXM to hear that. All right, let's check in on the latest standings in the Pacific Division and the Western Conference playoff picture. A lot of teams in action last night. That included the Edmonton Oilers, and they were able to squeak by the Montreal Canadiens 3-2 in overtime. So 2 points for the Oilers. They sit at 83 points on the season, and that is good enough for second best in the Pacific Division. So the LA Kings don't gain any ground on Edmonton. LA with 77 points, so they're 5 points still back of the Oilers in that race for the number 2 spot and potentially home ice advantage in a first-round playoff matchup. The Nashville Predators have 80 points. They have a 15-game point streak. They're 14-0-1 in their last 15 games. They crushed San Jose last night 8-2, so they continue to look to be a lock to hold on to that number 1 wildcard spot in the West. So for the LA Kings, if they can't get second place, the most likely scenario for the Kings, either third place in the Pacific, which they face Edmonton, or the number 2 wildcard spot in the West. Don't know that the Kings, we'll see. It's possible they're 3 points back in Nashville, but the way the Predators are playing right now, they're on a heater, as they like to say. So we'll see. It's either a wildcard spot for the Kings or that third spot, it looks like. As for the team that the Kings are competing against for that wildcard spot, that is the Vegas Golden Knights, and they lost last night to the Tampa Bay Lightning by a score of 5-3. So checking the updated playoff picture, want to make sure that I have this right. We talked about the Kings and where they are. And for the Vegas Golden Knights, they check in with 79 points. The Kings have 81 points. I don't know why I had 77 for the Kings. So let me correct this. I apologize on the fly. So Edmonton has right now 86 points. I thought I updated this. I apologize, but it didn't look right. Didn't pass the smell test, so I'm glad I checked this out. Okay, Edmonton with their win over Montreal has 86 points, so still 5 points up on the Kings, who have 81 points. For Nashville, they've got 84 points on the season, and for Vegas, after losing to Tampa Bay by a score of 5-3, it's the Golden Knights with 79 points. So the Kings have a 2-point advantage on Vegas. 79 points for the Kings. 81 points for the Kings and 79 points for the Vegas Golden Knights. So the Kings were able to get a little separation in the wild card race from Vegas last night. Minnesota, meanwhile, is hanging in there. They've got 76 points. So they're, again, big game tonight for Minnesota, looking to gain ground on Vegas, gain ground on LA in that wild card race for Minnesota. And then you've got St. Louis kind of hanging around there. They've got 75 points on the season. So that is the updated look at the playoff picture. Sorry again for the confusion on that. And I'll just do it real quick for clarity. Edmonton in second in the Pacific, 86 points, 5 points ahead of the Kings, who have 81 points. Then you've got Nashville with 84 points, the number 1 wildcard team in the West. Vegas has 79 points, 2 points behind the Kings for that number 2 wildcard spot in the West. The Kings, the only team, and obviously Minnesota, in action tonight that could affect any of those standings. So if the playoffs started today, it would be the Kings against the Edmonton Oilers in the first round for a third straight year. But that remains to be seen how that's all going to play out. There's still important games to go, even though we are winding down on the season. So we'll keep track on that playoff picture each and every episode, because it can change each and every episode. As far as what we're looking for tonight, obviously excited to see Viktor Arvidsson on tomorrow's show. Obviously going to update you on what he was able to do, how many minutes he played, how did he look, where did he fit in the lineup. So looking forward to breaking down Viktor Arvidsson on tomorrow's show. And as it is a Friday show, we will recap the Kings Wild game, but we'll also have our Kings fan feedback show. And we are going to record the Friday show very early. So if you want to get an email in for the Friday show, I would suggest you get it in as soon as possible, like maybe right after listening to the show or right after watching the Kings game tonight. If you want to give your thoughts on Viktor Arvidsson, the email address is always lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. And of course, you can always leave your comments. We welcome them. If you're watching on YouTube, on the YouTube episodes, you can put your comments down below. And we'd love you to stay interactive with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram. We are at Locked On LA Kings. Looking forward to seeing Viktor Arvidsson tonight and talking about it with you tomorrow. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you on Friday. And as always, go Kings, go.